right, if you're just joining us today, welcome. This is our 4-H cook-along, and we're going to be making a healthy, tasty turkey cheese ball today. And don't forget, like our page and ask others, share it, and ask others to join us so that we can share this cheese ball all around Navarro County and hopefully help people have a fun little Thanksgiving appetizer. All right. Again, thanks for joining us. We're going to demonstrate how to make that cheese ball, and we're going to decorate it like a turkey just in time for Thanksgiving. So the first thing you're going to need to do, if you haven't already, is your cream cheese needs to be at room temperature. So it needs to be set out before beginning this for about an hour. And as always, before you start cooking in your home or anywhere else, make sure that all your surfaces are cleaned and sanitized, and make sure that you have washed your hands with warm soapy water, scrubbing at least 15 seconds under the water with soap, maybe while you sing the happy birthday song, just to give you plenty of time. That's the best way to kill germs, and we sure want to stay safe during this time of a pandemic. So my hands are clean. I have pre-cleaned all the surfaces earlier, and we're ready to go. So we're going to start off with the cream cheese, and you're going to have, I used the lower fat version, the new factual cheese, which is a lower fat version of cream cheese. You can also use fat-free, or you could mix one fat-free, one low fat to even cut the calories more. And if you're ready to spend a lot of calories, just go ahead and get the full fat. But today I'm using the reduced fat. So we're going to put 2 8-ounce packages of cream cheese in the bowl. And I'm going to save the little foil wrapper because there's a little cream cheese left on it. And we're going to need that later because when we're decorating, we're going to use the leftover cream cheese as a glue to glue on our eyes and our beak. All right, another thing, when you use fresh produce, and we're using fresh produce today, we're using green onions, and we're using all kinds of bell peppers. I chose red, green, yellow, and orange bell peppers. And our recipe calls for green bell pepper. So make sure that those are washed thoroughly before using. And you don't need to use soap on your vegetables. Just washing them really well under running water is fine. And so you're going to chop up 1/3 of a cup. And you'll use a dry measuring cup to measure. You're going to have 1/3 a cup of green onions and 1/3 a cup of green bell pepper. And I've already got that chopped here. So I've got my 1/3 a cup of green onion that we're going to add in. And I've got my 1/3 a cup of green bell pepper I'm going to put in. All right. And then we have a teaspoon of seasonal or seasoning salt, or this is just a brand of seasonal. They have different names, but any kind of mixed seasoning salt you can add, and you can also add a little pepper or other flavors if you like. So we're just going to add a teaspoon of that in with this. And then it also calls for pineapple, and you're going to use 1 8-ounce count of crushed pineapple, and you need to drain it with a colander because the juice will make the cheese ball too runny if you don't drain out the juice. So I already have my 8-ounce pineapple drained, so I'm just going to pour that in. And then you need a cup of crushed pecans. And you can buy them crushed in a bag. These are pecan pieces that I bought. They're a little big, I think, so I went ahead and put mine through a hand grinder. And I have one of these old-fashioned pecan grinders. It works really well. You can get them at cooking stores. You find them in garage sales. If you're going to purchase one, make sure you find one that has the metal blades inside because it works best with the pecans. They do make some with plastic, and they don't last very long. But it chops them all up in nice little bits and pieces that are pretty uniform. So we're going to use that today. And I'm just going to put a cup. The recipe calls for 2 cups. 1 cup goes inside the cheese ball, and the other cup is going to be used to roll the cheese ball in later. So this was 1 cup. We're going to just put that all in there. So now you have your bowl full of your ingredients, and you just have to mix it together. So if your cream cheese is soft, it's pretty easy. Just take a fork and combine it. It does take a little while to stir it all together. And eventually you will have to get your hands in it, but I'm going to try to use the fork as much as possible. Cream cheese is nice and soft, so it's working well. Just keep stirring until you get all of the ingredients combined where you don't see big white chunks of cheese. This is a pretty basic cheese ball recipe. You can add turkey if you wanted to use some chopped up turkey. If you have some leftover turkey after Thanksgiving and you want to make a cheese ball, you could chop up a cup of your leftover turkey meat and make it into a cheese ball. And you could also add pepperoni to this recipe and make a pepperoni cheese ball. Chicken might work, ham might work, even bacon if you want to add meat. But right now it's perfect for a vegetarian. It's loaded with onions and bell pepper and pineapple. Alright, so you can see that it's getting really creamy here. And it's very soft. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of take my fork and make it into a ball. This is plenty soft, so I may not have to use my hands. But if yours is not quite as soft, you may have to get in there with your hands and incorporate it all together. But I'm just taking my fork and scooping around the edges. It doesn't have to be in a perfect ball, but you can just kind of scoop it around with your fork and make it into a ball shape. Making sure you're getting everything from the sides incorporated. All right. Now, you'll notice I've got it all put together in a ball, and it's still somewhat flat at the bottom, but that's fine. The next thing that you're going to do is this will need to go into the refrigerator to chill for at least an hour before decorating, maybe 2 hours. You can make it a day ahead of time and let it chill overnight, and that's even better. But just cover the top with plastic wrap, stick it in the fridge, and get it out right before you're going to serve. And I'll show you what to do next. So I've pre-made one, and it's already chilled. So I had this one in the refrigerator overnight, and I've wrapped it in some plastic wrap, and it's ready to be served. I'm going to take the plastic wrap out, and right before serving, you're going to need to, or decorating, first you're going to roll your cheese ball in another cup of pecans that was in your recipe. So A good pie plate or just any kind of plate, big plate, is good. So you'll just pour your pecans out on a plate and kind of stir them around like that. And then we'll unwrap the cheese ball. And then you're just going to gently roll your cheese ball in the pecans, just flipping it over in the plate. You can use your hands and kind of put the pecans all around the cheese ball so that it's completely covered in pecans. And if you're running short on pecans, you can leave the bottom part without pecans, but you should have enough with a cup to cover it all pretty good. And so you need to kind of press them all in once you get them. Yeah. It gives your cheese ball a nice brown color with the pecans. Alright, and that is a little messy, so you will need some paper towels to wipe your hands or if you're near a sink. So here we have the cheese ball covered in pecans. Ooh. And it's ready to decorate. And so if you looked at the picture ahead of time, they had a red bell pepper cut sort of in a triangle shape like this for the turkey's head. And then they had a little yellow piece of bell pepper cut for a beak. So we'll just cut a tiny little yellow triangle like this for your beak. And remember earlier I said I saved some cream cheese, so I'm going to take the cream cheese left in the package and I'm just going to rub it on the back of that beak. And then I'm going to stick it like glue right here on the red bell pepper. So there we have the little turkey head and the beak. And then you can use the green bell pepper for the eyes. You can use a piece of pecan for the eyes. You could use a black olive. You could be really creative with what you use for the eyes. I make a lot of cupcakes and decorate cakes, so I had these little googly eyes that you can buy in the cake decorating section. So I'm going to use 2 of those. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to stick a little cream cheese on them. From the package. And then we're just going to stick the eyes on the red bell pepper face. Kind of tedious, but it can be done. So there I have a little turkey face with eyes and a beak. Alright, we're just going to set that aside. Looks like I have a little pecans on the eyes too. I think I'm going to start over. I have pecans on my hand and then I've got pecans on the eyes. Alright. Now you should, your recipe called for some whole pecans. You can use pretzel sticks, you can use crackers, you can use many different things for feathers, but today we're going to use whole pecans to try and make the feathers and the wings, and we're going to use strips of different colored bell peppers. And so when you use your bell pepper, just core it, get all of the seeds out, and then you can slice it in little triangle-like shapes. to make the feathers. You can make them fat, thin, however you want to make them. Doesn't really matter. We're going to start off, we're going to put the turkey head on. It's going to go right here in the center. Going to stick it down in the cream cheese. And then we can start off with a few whole pecans that'll look sort of like wings. And if you look down in comments of the original post, you'll see that there's a picture that'll help you go by if you're having trouble seeing what I'm doing here. I'm just going to put a few of those like a wing. Oops. You have to stick them in pretty deep. And next we're going to put in our tail feathers, and I'm going to put a few pecans back here in the back, just right before I start putting the bell peppers. And then we'll just start adding the feathers. Just alternate your colors. I don't know if you can see it. I'm just sticking the feathers in the cheese ball at the back. Just keep piling them in. You might need to, I left my ends blunt, but you might need to kind of cut your peppers where it has a little pointed end. It might help it stick a little better. I'm wanting to use my pointed ends for the feathers. And then they can be thin or thick. The thin tends to stick in better, but you don't want them so thin that they're going to fall over. A few more back here. All right, can you see how that one's looking? Let me get some more red in here. You could also use the mini bell peppers. I've seen those. They've got them out just in time for the holiday. So mini bell peppers would work too. These were full-size bell peppers. Okay, I think it's about ready to go. Then you can lift it up, put it on your serving tray, add a few whole wheat crackers. And here you go, a festive turkey cheese ball, just in time for Thanksgiving. All right, thanks for joining us today. I hope you can follow along and make this. If you didn't have the opportunity to watch, we can watch it again later if you have time to buy the ingredients. And we'll see you next time for another cook along. Thanks for joining us today.